Welcome to the Case Podcast Series 2. Today's session is going to be about a gap year.
Many students took a gap year in 2020 due to the COVID 19 pandemic, which was necessitated due to colleges offering classes online and not in person. Foreign universities and colleges around the world allowed students to defer their admission till the following semester or even an entire year. This helps students cope with the mental stress or even financial uncertainties during the pandemic. The pandemic has brought to fore the topic of gap year, which was otherwise not commonly considered by students from India looking to study abroad. In this session of the Case podcast series, we will talk about the gap year and its various aspects and how it affects a student's academic or athletic admission prospect. We have with us Mr. Vikram Anand, CASE CEO, who will provide insights into some common questions faced by prospective students and parents regarding a gap year and its impact onto their college admission or athletic recruitment. So my first question to you, sir, is what exactly is a gap year and why should one consider taking it?
Thank you, Vrinda. A gap year is exactly what it says. It is a gap of 1 year after completing high school. For students who complete their class 12 this year, if they were to join college next year instead of this year, they would be taking a gap year. A student can consider taking a gap year due to several reasons. Improving their academic profile by taking or retaking standardized tests such as the SAT, ACT, or APs. Some students consider taking a gap year if they have interesting internship or volunteer opportunities. Some students travel to other countries to gain cross-cultural experiences. The pandemic has obviously created many variables and reasons for students to take a gap year. Financial constraints may be one of the reasons. Due to cancellation of sports during the pandemic, students may want to take a gap year to train and improve their sporting skills.
Thank you, sir, for such an informative answer. Which brings me to my next question now. What are some of the advantages or disadvantages of taking a gap year for an academic or athletic admission case?
Well, the biggest advantage of a gap year is to use this extra year to improve your academic or your overall student profile, gain real-world experiences, or improve your athletic standing or tournament records. The disadvantage could be that the application pool for colleges changes every year. If you have already gained admission to a particular college this year, it is not guaranteed that you will gain admission into the same college next year. As strange as that may sound, but that actually happens every year. Also, from an athletic admission perspective, the NCAA in USA has some very stringent rules for competition during a gap year. You must contact us to learn more about that because it won't be possible to talk about such a vast subject on this podcast.
So I think that was a very well explained answer. So I also think that some of the students have this question in their mind, which is, should a prospective student athlete take a gap year to improve his or her sporting skill, participate in more tournaments, or improve his ranking?
That's a great follow-up question, and many students are actually faced with this dilemma. Firstly, this decision should be taken on a case-to-case basis and based on each sport. I sometimes find students wanting to take a gap year to improve their prospects of playing in an NCAA Division I team, and I find this to be one of the most flawed reasons to take a gap year. Everyone is different and their circumstances are different. While the cons of taking a gap year could be that there is no guarantee that a gap year will lead to improvement in your sport, in your sporting skills rather, and it can also lead complications with your NCAA eligibility. It also leads to an unstructured schedule, something most students will find difficult to cope with, especially since, all their friends would have already joined college and they're all of a sudden faced with a completely different environment other than what they were used to. The advantages, of course, are that you can create a strategic plan for training and tournament participation, and it can help you get ready for the rigors of college sport.
So also another very common question which is in the minds of people when it comes to gap year is, does taking a gap year reflect poorly on the academic profile?
How a gap year reflects on your academic profile completely depends on how you utilize that gap year. Admissions officers will certainly evaluate and scrutinize what you did to enhance your profile during that year. So you have to be very, very methodical in what you do during that year.
Yes, I think that was very correctly said, because when you take a gap year, there's one option is that you sit at home and don't do anything productive out of that 1 year. Or on the other hand, you go out, work on your academic and athletic profile and make it stronger for the next year when you're going to apply. Can I still get financial aid and scholarships for colleges after taking a gap year?
Yes, you can certainly get financial aid and scholarship from college after taking a gap year. These financial aid or scholarships are dependent on many factors, including your academic qualifications, your athletic profile, and your ability to pay. Any of these would have changed over the year. Taking a gap year does not make you ineligible for scholarship or financial aid, and a student may take a gap year to target better aid or scholarship. In fact, many students have purposely opted to take a gap year due to the financial uncertainties caused by the pandemic.
Another very common question, sir, is what happens if I take a gap year for more than a year to join college after graduating high school?
Well, that's an interesting question. This can certainly lead to more challenges, and a student must have very good reasons or circumstances for this to happen. Academically, if the time was utilized effectively, it can be of help. However, for an athletic admission, this can lead to far more complications with their NCAA eligibility.
Thank you, Mr. Anand, for answering all the questions so elaborately and succinctly. As I understand, each student or player should carefully evaluate his or her situation before considering a gap year. They should fully understand the choices with an academic and athletic perspective. We hope you all found this session useful. Stay tuned with Case for more informative podcasts. Please do DM us your questions or queries on social media, and we should be sure to add them in our next podcast. Till then, stay safe and healthy.